Investments in our natural environment offer huge returns, both economically and in the protection and regeneration of some of the most unique areas of the planet.
It's one of the most extraordinary recoveries of vegetation I've ever seen. Grass up to your chest in the middle of Saudi Arabia was not something I expected ever. And to see that happening in Alula has been astonishing.
Dr. Max Graham is the CEO and founder of Space for Giants. Thank you very much for joining me here today.
My pleasure.
Please tell us about your work.
I work for a conservation organization called Space for Giants. We're an international conservation organization. And we have partnered with the Royal Commission of Alula to restore their protected areas. And they have 5 protected areas, some of the biggest protected area landscapes in the world. And they're in a state of degradation. So if you go to Alula, on the natural rock faces, you will see rock art from thousands and thousands of years ago that has ostriches and lions and leopards and lots of different sorts of antelopes. And the ambition of the kingdom is to bring those animals back to the reserve. So we're helping in that process.
Why does degradation happen, if you can give us some examples?
Well, it's primarily driven by a combination of human factors. In this landscape, these drylands are very fragile. And so if you have too many livestock grazing too often in the same place, then it means the ability of the vegetation to recover is degraded. And therefore you just get degraded landscapes, devastated landscapes that just can't sequester carbon, they can't provide the basis of life. So restoring them isn't just a challenge here, it's a global challenge.
Tell us, how does restoring work in simple terms?
Well, that's what's so extraordinary about this project is nature just needs time more than anything. It needs time and space. So in the case of Alula, there was a lot of livestock going into a beautiful reserve called Shiran. And in Shiran, they were able to exclude the livestock by putting up some fencing and then giving a little bit of a helping hand by planting vegetation. And I can't tell you, it's one of the most extraordinary recoveries of vegetation I've ever seen. And I've been to lots of different places, but to be walking through grass up to your chest in the middle of Saudi Arabia was not something I expected, ever. And to see that happening in Alula has been astonishing. And then, of course, if you have that vegetation basis, you can bring back the ungulates. And then if you have the gazelles, then you have the food base for apex predators like leopards. So it's like coming into, as a conservationist, it's like being in a candy shop. You actually have a blank canvas, this extraordinary vision, and some really dedicated Saudi nationals who are committed to making it happen. So it's been a wonderful journey. Our primary work at the moment is training the rangers. So we've trained 157 rangers on the ground, Saudi nationals, who are being trained on the basics of protected area management, but making sure that the law's being applied, that there's communication in the park, so if any visitor gets injured, they could be helped. And we've just started the country's first carbon project, which is very exciting.
I will ask you more about that. But obviously, degradation is a global problem. But from your experience, is it better to go and act globally or locally, like you're doing now with Alula?
Well, the truth is that there's nothing like action, tangible action on the ground. And actually, you learn so much at a small scale about what can be applied elsewhere. So seeing the work happen in Shiran and then being able to learn from those lessons and scale up to Alula, and then from there to scale up to the Arabian Peninsula. It's all around these incremental steps that are required to make it happen. But you need work at the national level to be able to create the enabling environment for that. You don't have that enabling environment, you don't have the political will, then you can't do very much on the ground. So you need both. But it's exciting to see a tangible project coming in. You can feel it, and that inspires you as a conservationist. You can feel it and see it, and that allows you to do more and go out and do more in the world.
Do you think the example of Alula could be copy-pasted elsewhere in the world?
I think there are semi-arid landscapes across the Arabian Peninsula, across North Africa, and parts of Southeast Asia, Australia. So without a doubt, these dryland ecosystems are ignored in the conservation arena. Ignored is perhaps too strong a word, but they're certainly not given the same amount of attention. So this is important work, not just from an Alula or Saudi Arabia perspective. It's important work from a global perspective.
You mentioned carbon removal
Yes.
earlier. Can you tell us more about it and how do you measure its success?
Carbon's a big deal because nature-based solutions, the ability of the planet to sequester carbon, take it out the atmosphere, about 30% of our targets in terms of bringing the global temperature to remain below 1.5 degrees Celsius of pre-industrial levels. To get to that, it's going to require technology, it's going to require changes in human behavior, but nature has the capacity to help a third of that, provide a solution to a third of that problem. And that means supporting natural ecosystems to sequester carbon. So in Saudi Arabia, we have natural ecosystems that are degraded. They're just no longer producing vegetation. In the process of photosynthesis, you suck carbon. These plants suck carbon out of the atmosphere. So it's absolutely critical that we are able, in all environments, all landscapes, mangroves, tropical forests, dryland, savannas of the Arabian Peninsula, to enable ecosystems to do that. So what we're doing here in Saudi Arabia is we're supporting the government to do a baseline assessment. So you're looking at carbon below ground, which is the roots of trees and the soil. You're looking at carbon above ground, which is all the vegetation. And so we've done about 177 soil samples to get that baseline assessment. And we're already seeing the impacts of intervention. So if Saudi Arabia, through Alula, can learn how to do this, then it also helps the country to offset the emissions that are being produced and get us closer to those goals of achieving a global climate below that 1.5 degree level.
Do you feel that Saudi Arabia and the global south could be the sort of front runner of a positive change?
Well, I think that's where the majority of impact can be achieved is in the global south, because the majority of the degraded ecosystems that are no longer sequestering carbon to the capacity that they could exist. So how do governments and investors come together to enable these projects to take off and empower nature to be able to sequester this carbon? So the answer is 100% yes. And this is the answer is global south being better at sequestering carbon by investment into these natural ecosystems. There's no doubt about it.
Why is that so?
Well, in the global south, the majority of ecosystems, say for example, African continent. The African continent has got 8,400 protected areas. Of those, only 20% have sufficient resources to cover the cost of annual management.
So it's almost the need pushed them to think and act more.
So you're seeing 80% of those protected areas are degraded. That means that they're just on paper. They don't exist in reality. If they are enabled to be restored, then that's a huge estate of land that's suddenly sequestering carbon. And the market exists for that. We know that there are countries and companies that have made these commitments to being net zero. And all that's needed is the bridging finance to enable these ecosystems to do their job. And so there is huge scope here. And it's also an investment opportunity. So if we can plug nature into the mainstream economy and make it a commodity, then nature has a chance of being able to persist into the next century.
You did explain very well the power of nature, but what technology can be used to help nature?
Well, I think the role, and this is the wonderful thing, is I think there's always this chat about, let's create these amazing machines to sequester carbon from the atmosphere and store it underground. I'm like, yeah, there's an amazing machine called a tree or grassland or shrubland. Why are we having to reinvent the wheel here? Of course, you need a little bit of everything, but that's the beauty of this. The role of technology in developing nature-based solutions is really around the monitoring. the monitoring and evaluation of this. So, have we got the right sensors in place to pick up the changes in vegetation as a result of our interventions? Are the carbon credits that are generated from these interventions real to give confidence to investors and governments? So that's really where technology will get better. And I think the role of drones, of remote sensing imagery, of different types of sampling, that's the role of technology in nature-based solution carbon projects.
Maybe on the example of Alula, can you explain the positive impact of it, what this investment will mean at the end?
Well, I think at the end, and this is why we're here at this conference, is that you're able to achieve so much with healthy, restored ecosystems. You're able to improve water retention so that you're more resilient to climate change. You're able to have healthier natural landscapes, so that's very important for biodiversity, so improved biodiversity. And both of those things contribute not only to climate change mitigation, but also to better and more resilient local communities if they have places they can go to access pasture, for example, that's actually being restored and well looked after, as opposed to a degraded landscape. So there's lots of things that will be better, but what you will see is you will see a natural landscape that existed thousands of years ago. You'll see tourists visiting that, generating income for the country, a diversified economy, and you're going to see improved climate as a consequence of those impacts. So I think it's going to be very exciting, and it is exciting already. You must go and see it if you haven't already.
With pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Appreciate that.